arguments about animal ethics and stimulated by all of this, motivated by all of this in planning. I read a fair amount. The arguments about animal ethics involve, generally speaking, those who think that human beings, but not animals, are created in God's image. And therefore, animals are made expressly for the sake of humans and may be used to satisfy our needs and our desires, and not only for food, but as beasts of burden, as raw materials, and as sources of amusement. The alternative view, the opposite view, is that even the lowly mouse can think, it can suffer, and it possesses the same dignity of consciousness that any other being possesses, and that differences in intelligence between humans and non-humans have no moral significance whatsoever. So our next speaker, Tracy. Tracy has one of those English names with lots of letters that I don't think you pronounce, right? Worcester? How do we pronounce that?
Worcester.
Worcester, right. So Tracy is the Marchioness of Worcester and has made an amazing film called Pig Business. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I first made this film for BBC West, and it went out. BBC World asked for a copy, and the lawyers got hold of it. And they said, no way. This is talking about and exposing a multi-billion-dollar company. So Channel 4 took it. It took 1 year in the lawyers' rooms. The company that it's about is an American company. They sent 4 letters. The film went through various editing stages. There were still letters the day before and the day of broadcast, but they were brave enough to broadcast it. So you're going to see 10 minutes of this film. But first of all, I wanted to say that I've spent 5 days in Canada just seeing if this film applies to your country. I'm sorry. It's all here. Can we see the film, please? I'm Tracy Worcester, and I've lived in the countryside most of my life. But whether it's in Britain or abroad, I've seen small family farms going bankrupt because of the arrival of giant factory farms. America's industrial pig farmers copied the chicken industry by cramming thousands of animals into a confined space. There are sometimes as many as 10,000 pigs in buildings like this, their waste dropping through a slatted floor. During the 1990s, large-scale meat processors bought up livestock farms. This vertical integration allowed the corporations to control the whole process from farming and slaughtering to packaging. The factory farms were now the main buyers of pigs. And as the price paid for pigs fell, many small farmers went bust. One survivor was Paul Sobocinski.
My tipping point, I think, was when I saw hogs go down to $8 a hundredweight in this country, worse than the Depression in the 1930s. And I saw that pain, I saw that happen to farmers, that I knew that we had to fight back, that we had to stand up, or they were just going to roll over and take democracy, our freedom.
Throughout the 1990s, small farmers in America campaigned against the growth of big farms.
Food has become a major profit-generating commodity and has spread onto a global playing field where food producers, workers, and consumers are reduced to pawns, manipulated by giant corporations.
The destruction of the small farm wasn't casual, it's systematic. It is the intention, it's the way that they make money, it's the design of this industry. Once a company owns both the slaughterhouse and some of the farms, it destroys the capacity of the farmers to organize.
I feel the responsibility to come here and warn Poland that they're going to try to get away with something in Poland that people in the United States now recognize is a catastrophe. In North Carolina today, because of these facilities, you can drive across the state in rural areas and villages and see that the villages are now empty of people. That the hardware stores are closed, the feed stores are closed, the banks are closed, the churches and the schools are now closed, and the rural areas are empty.
Że nikt krowie nie chowa ani świnie, a pole stoi utłoczone. Takie teraz rząd. To jeszcze, ale teraz te nasze dzieci, wszystko bez robocie i te dzieci chodzą, muszą kraść. No, wszystko chodzi, roboty nie ma nigdzie. Zapowiada się taka bieda, że będzie złodziej na złodziejuje.
The whole mission of the European Bank has been to industrialize Central and Eastern European agriculture. No question about that, and that has the effect of pushing out small farmers and independent farmers, and also the effect of opening it up to takeover by foreign corporations.
If the experts are worried about pollution and the exploitation of the Earth's resources, shouldn't we be learning from Poland's traditional family farms and so protect them?
Some people find this kind of farming primitive, but it works. It's adequate for this number of hectares and for the number of people, and it doesn't use a lot of energy, and it doesn't therefore contribute to the greenhouse effect. And as oil becomes more and more expensive, you'll surely find that this kind of farming is going to be more attractive and more economic, for that matter.
Polish agriculture at the moment is not productive enough. Small farms are too small to be competitive. I think Poland wants and will have to be competitive on the world market, and for that they will have to actually continue improving productivity. That will be over time, at the expense of smaller farms.
Because a lot of the European officials are saying that the Polish farmers are too small. They've only got 18 hectares. What's too small about that?
Well, they want to sweep them aside so larger operators can take over, and everything will be owned by the corporations, I think.
And what do you think will happen to Poland as a result of that?
If Poland's family farmers are exterminated, as it were, it will destroy Poland's culture and as far as that goes, its soul.
One of the former state farms, bought by a giant foreign company, holds about 17,000 pigs. Most factory pig farms use bare slats, but even when the farms have straw, they don't look healthy. In 2005, on another farm, I was shown undercover film of what was found in a cesspit of pig waste they call a lagoon.
Każdy, kto przyjedzie, to się pyta, jak wy tu mieszkacie?
To ja po chemii tak nie zwracam, jak ja teraz po tych zapachach zwracam. Ja jestem poupara.
Ja mam ciągle kłopoty z gardłem, z oczami. Cały czas. Ciągle chrzącham. Coś tam przeszkadza, jakaś klucha. Ale ja mam mamę, która właśnie ma 84 lata, mama nie mogła oddychać, dusiła się, bo był taki smród, ten fetor, i wtedy właśnie rozpoczęłam tą akcję.
Wtedy w czerwcu właśnie
2003 roku.
Tu mamy płuco jedno, tu mamy płuco drugie. To tędy płynie powietrze i to jest rura, prawda? Rura. I ona się zwęża, zaciska. Tu powoduje tworzenie się wydzieliny patologicznej pod wpływem drażniących gazów. Czyli zamiast rurą oddychać, schematycznie my oddychamy tak. Już nam ciężko nabrać, ciężko wypuścić.
My guide, Marek Kreider of the Polish Animal Welfare Institute, introduced me to one of the local residents. For many years they've been complaining about the local groundwater, believing it to be contaminated.
A zająłem się tym dlatego, że sam zacząłem chorować. Między innymi zacząłem chorować po spożyciu wody.
Could you tell me what specifically is the illnesses that people are getting around here?
Jakie dolegliwości występują u ludzi?
No, z tego co ja wiem, no to są to przede wszystkim dolegliwości ze strony przewodu pokarmowego, żołądek, poza tym jakieś zmiany na skórze.
I also heard locals' claims of what happened to children who'd swum in a nearby lake.
No takie normalnie po prostu takie jako odwrócenie czy coś takiego. Czerwone się robi, bo nie drapie cię i to po prostu...
Red skin, they got red skin.
Nie ma tak jak było powiedzmy nawet 2 lata temu, gdzieś łowiło ryby. było zielsko, tak w tej chwili nie ma. Ryby nie tak. Ona się po prostu rozchodzi.
For stallholder Mike King, the secret of producing top-quality pork lies in the humane treatment of his animals.
I think pigs, they're such intelligent, sort of inquisitive animals. They need to be active all day long, searching for roots and grubs and things like that. Whereas pigs in concrete boxes, they've got nothing to do all day long. They're totally bored.
The intensive farming Mike referred to is how most of the pork is produced in Canada. In most countries across the world, including Canada, it's legal to keep sows permanently in stalls like these.
One of the big weaknesses of the system is a heavy dependence on antibiotics and the fact that that causes infections which can spread from animals to humans, such as Salmonella, E. coli, Campylobacter, and even MRSA. With the research we've already got, we could actually say, stop. Enough's enough. We've got a system here which is actually causing the pigs to be carrying dangerous infections which are going to come home and haunt us. And meat which may appear very cheap is in fact very, very expensive. And in some cases that could be at the cost of our own lives.
The consumer ultimately has the power. They can say whether they buy cheap pork, that they don't care where it's produced or how it's produced or the quality of it. Ultimately, if the consumer refuses to buy that and prefers to buy meat which is a high welfare standard, produced in an environmentally sensitive way, then we'll be onto a winner, you know.
Part of the puzzle is that people buy locally. That is a very potent form of activism, to say to the Walmarts of the world, we're not going to buy from you. We're going to buy in the local farmers market. You also need to sue the polluters. You need to demand your government enforce the law against them. You need to pass legislation that makes it very clear that they can't come into your communities and displace, you know, the traditions and the values that your country holds dear. And all of us, you know, we had an American Revolution in this country to create democracy. We need a new American Revolution in this country now to fight against the corporate feudalism that we are now dealing with, that is embodied so much by this industry, that is eroding everything and subverting everything that we care about in our democracy.
Basically, I'll give a little talk, but I can't name any names of any of the companies in your country because these companies are so wealthy, they sue. So basically, there are two big ones. They control 60% of the processing in this country. And because they actually they're vertically integrated, so they own both the processing and a small percentage of the production of the pigs, and they produce in such a way that they externalize the true costs onto the broader community. So the other farmers have to compete with this. And also, the processors pay in two ways. They pay by the number of piglets, and they pay by the weight of the finished animal. So that sow, because their profits are so tiny, those farmers, it's like 1%. They have to keep the sow in their cheapest possible way. So she's in a stall 90% of her life. She can't even turn around. There's no straw, there's slats with the stench and the chemicals of the biodegrading feces coming through, which is making her very sick. So they give these animals a lot of antibiotics. They're in a cage. Then the piglets are transported. 20% of those piglets die in that transportation process. Now, the pigs, when they're being finished, because they're taken away from their mothers at 3 weeks old, their immune system is extremely underdeveloped. So they have to feed these animals a lot of antibiotics. You then get antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Now, I'm sure you've all heard that there are cases of E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, and the pig strain of MRSA. In Canada, 25% of your pigs have the pig strain of MRSA, and 20% of the farmers are carrying this. They're not sick, but if they get into contact with an immune-compromised person, that person can get MRSA. And just let me tell you, in the Netherlands, in the hospitals, 80% of the MRSA cases are the pig strain. Now, in order to get this animal to grow really, really fast, they give it a hormone. Not allowed to say the name because they'll sue me. However, they become more aggressive, these animals, because of this, and 10% die. Now, I'm going to say what they do to human beings, but because of legal reasons, I have to read it so they can't sue me. Shown to have the potential to cause cardiovascular disease and cancer. Now, this hormone is banned in 160 countries, even in China, but not in Canada. Now, the costs for these farmers are huge. So their profits are tiny. It's forcing them to farm like this. Their buildings that could cost up to £2 million. They have to pay the ventilation, the transport, the heating. This is a fundamentally flawed system. So it's not surprising that the teachers' pension fund is taking their funds out of your biggest company in this country. So what we've got to look at now is that we have a competition here which is called in the name of free trade. So can our government help us out of this situation? Well, in my country, we banned the sow stall. But what did the supermarkets do? They sourced it from other countries in the EU, so that actually we are importing these products which have been extremely cruelly looked after. The other thing is, so now we're looking at the EU actually introducing a ban. So what we need to do is have a ban right the way across the NAFTA trading nations. Now, can the corporations solve this? Well, a giant in America said that they were going to ban the sow stall, that's the cage, in the year 2017. And so your giant said, okay, we'll do that too. Now, the one in America has now reneged because they know this system is so flawed, they can't afford to let their animals roam properly free. So the corporation here, are they also going to have to renege on their promise because of this competition? Now, I believe, therefore, it's up to us, the consumer, to lead the revolution that Bobby Kennedy is talking about. We need to support the small farmer that still exists. I went to see one. He has Tamworth pigs, which means that they can be out all year round. So they can root in the ground. They don't have stalls, and they don't have their tails clipped because they're so bored that they actually mutilate each other in those horrible cramped conditions. So what we need to do is find the non-governmental organizations that are fighting for us for justice for these pigs. And they are, for example, Whisper, the Animal Welfare Institute, Beyond Factory Farming. We need to look for shops like Row Farm and Whole Foods. Now, there is a higher cost in buying this produce, but it's better to have quality over quantity. So we should perhaps look at reducing the amount of meat that we eat. So my DVD, it's for free. I need to spread this message, though, in Canada. So if you could give a donation, I would be incredibly grateful for each DVD. But the other thing is that actually you could look at this film on the internet. It's pigbusiness.co.uk. We have a global distribution happening at the moment through the International Forum on Globalization in San Francisco, that it's going to China, it's going to Mexico, it's going to Chile, all the countries which are being invaded by these giant corporations. And we're also working in America through the Center for Food Safety, and we have a big summit on Monday where this is going to go far and wide. And also in Brussels, we have a big premiere happening, and also at the Food and Agriculture Agency, where there's a big livestock symposium coming up. We're going to be there with the message that this system is fundamentally flawed. Now, the only way we can solve this is if we all buy pigs that have had a decent life. Please spread this message. Please get a DVD and show it in your community. And then you can raise money for your local charity, is I don't want any money, I just want to help this get round Canada so that more people are aware of what's going on and more people know how to change it, so we can have a food revolution here along with the rest of the world. It's happening now, so let's be part of it. Thanks so much.
Well done, Tracy. Well done. Thank you so much. We'll give you a hand with that. Yeah.